very graciously here to provide her with her lived experiences with living with this condition. Heather previously served as a board member and story editor for the organization HS Heroes. And her experience with HS actually led her on really an inner quest to find peace and acceptance in her situation. So she'll share with us a lot of that journey today. And also in 2016, Heather published her first book, which was entitled The Lighthouse, A Journey Through 365 Days of Self-Love. And she is currently working on her second novel, Telepathy Between Hearts. So with us today, I'm happy to have her join us to share with us the patient's perspective on surgery, recovery, and the impacts of HS on mental and emotional health. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you all for allowing me to be here today. My name is Heather Talpa. I have had HS for 15 years and recently underwent several surgeries to remove all of the lesions and damaged skin that the disease caused to my body. I am currently in remission and still healing from my latest surgery, which I'm only 1 week post-op from. So today I'm going to tell you about my experience as someone who has been affected by HS, not only on an extreme physical level, but on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level. To give you a bit more background info into who I am a writer, author, and I have worked in the events industry for the last 12 years. So my first HS bump appeared as a red lump on my inner thigh when I was 17 years old. I thought it might be an ingrown hair or pimple, so I went to my small town family doctor and he prescribed me a topical ointment, but no official diagnosis. It was 2004, so there was really not as much known about HS as there is today. Obviously, the cream did not work and the boil persisted. Ironically, my HS appeared when I was at the lowest weight I had ever been. I had just finished losing about 30 pounds over grade 12. And then up popped my HS. I was 155 pounds on a 5'3" frame at the time. So as the years progressed, it took its time taking over my body. It took 5 years for the HS to go from stage 1 to stage 2. So around this time, I started looking up my symptoms on the internet and I saw many results for a skin condition called Hidradenitis Suppurativa. I unofficially diagnosed myself with HS around the age of 22. In 2008, I moved to London, Ontario, and I was on a wait list for 4 years until I was assigned a new family doctor by a provincial healthcare program called Healthcare Connect. By this point, the disease was manifesting as open wounds in the most intimate areas of my body. So this new doctor did accurately diagnose me with stage 2 HS. Unfortunately, she offered me no solutions or treatment options other than to, her words, see a dietitian and lose weight. I did not feel any compassion or words of hope from this young doctor. So instead, the condition was blamed on the fact that I was overweight. So I left her office feeling really defeated and hopeless. I felt so much shame about myself that I did not seek medical attention again for another 5 years. I thought that since I was overweight, it was my fault I had it. So it took another 3 years for the HS to progress into severe stage 3. It had reached the point of stage 3 where it had diseased and deformed most of the skin on my entire groin so badly that I could no longer ignore it. And I had to once again try and seek help from a medical professional. The reality of living with chronic pain every day was taking its toll on me in every way, not just physically. Not only was it affecting my physical quality of life, but it was deeply affecting my mental and emotional health as well. I had boils and leaking open wounds under my breast, on my inner thighs, pubic bone, entire groin area, labia, as well as my buttocks and both armpits. It felt like a modern day version of leprosy. I had so much nerve damage on my pubic bone from years of intense itching and picking that I would experience frequent stabbing pains, and I just learned to live through the pain. As you can imagine, as a single woman in my late 20s, I was undergoing a type of inner turmoil that many people my age did not have to deal with. All of my friends were getting married and starting their families, and my main goal upon waking every day was to just make it through the day. I remember dreading going to the bathroom, so much so that I would refuse to drink water all day so that I wouldn't have the urge to go. In the bathroom, I would have to come face to face with a part of myself that I had learned to hate and reject. And to me, my groin was a constant reminder of how disgusting I was. I didn't want to face it. I wanted to bury it. It became what my new gynecologist would later describe as the most horrific case of HS she had ever seen. She ended up telling me about a birth control pill that had been found to help in some HS cases. She said she didn't think it would work for me because my case was so severe, but she started me on it just in case because she said that I had nothing to lose by trying it. For a long time, I acted as if nothing was wrong. I went through my life with a smile on my face. I worked 2 jobs to support myself, even though most days it hurt to stand, sit, walk, and even lay down. I was not a quitter though. I had my whole life ahead of me. I had hopes and dreams and beautiful visions for my future that were slowly slipping out of my grasp. I envisioned my future now as bleak, painful, uninspiring, and lonely. Because I had lost all of my hope for my life, my mind became a breeding ground for emotions like judgment, shame, and self-hate. In some of my lowest moments, all I could take comfort in was how freeing it was to cry. It seemed to others that I wasn't in pain because they couldn't see what was underneath my clothes. But inside my mind, I was screaming for help. I reached a point where I was sick of hiding. I just wanted to be angry and to be allowed to feel that way. I believed that my painful experience with HS gave me a valid reason to be mad at the world. Most days I felt crippled by my life. I didn't know who I was when I looked in the mirror. I was deeply hurting, depressed, and in a despair so deep I didn't think I would ever find my way out. This disease took everything from me. It felt like a burden to have to wake up each morning and go through the same inner and outer pain as the day before. And I often wished for my life to end. And at one point, I was even researching medical assisted suicide, wondering if that would be an option for me. I hated myself and I hated the experiences I was being put through. I knew I did not deserve this inner and outer pain I was always feeling. I thought of myself as a victim. And one night I reached the end of my rope. And when I was younger, I had a wooden plaque on my wall that said, when you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. So this was me hanging on by barely a thread. One night in April 2014, I embarked on an inner journey that aimed to shed a light beyond just the physical aspect of the disease. I had a feeling my body was trying to tell me something. I knew I did not deserve to be in pain. I knew I was a good person. On my darkest days, I had nowhere else to go but inside of myself for comfort. But I first had to admit to myself that my mind was not such a comfortable place to be. I hoped there was something out there that could save me, but I didn't know for sure. All I knew was that I couldn't continue traveling down this path on my own. My negative mind and my wounded body were very heavy burdens to carry. In my mind one night, I cried out to myself, what am I supposed to do here? Why do I have to suffer? And in the stillness of my usually very negative mind, I received a gentle, loving thought. One thought that told me to just start loving myself. And I rarely felt loving thoughts in my mind. And I believe that that is why, on some level, this particular thought felt like divine intervention. I acknowledged the fact that it was not a thought that had ever crossed my mind before. I had no idea how to start loving the things about myself and my body that had caused me so much pain in the past, but I was willing to try. I felt like I had nothing to lose except for time. The next day, I embarked on an inner 365-day journey to learn how to love myself, flaws and all. I wanted to learn how to love myself just the way I was so that I could love myself through my pain while facing my wounds and my scars and accepting them as a part of me. I didn't know where to start, so I figured I would just start by telling myself I love myself whenever I felt negative thoughts taking over my mind. By doing this, I quickly realized that I didn't have to feel guilt or judgment or shame about myself if I consciously chose to feel love instead. It became my conscious duty to catch negative thoughts inside my mind and turn them into positive thoughts. This one mindful task helped almost immediately to get me through the darker feelings I was experiencing about my physical pain and emotional suffering. By day 5 of telling myself loving thoughts, I felt such a sense of inner freedom that I had to write about it. I started a blog to write about my journey to self-love. By the end of the year, I had over 70 blog posts documenting my journey, and I decided to combine the posts into a novel, which I self-published in 2016, called The Lighthouse, A Journey Through 365 Days of Self-Love. It is currently only available on Amazon. I didn't know at the time, but this journey to self-love became the foundation upon which I was able to build trust and strength within myself to make it through all of the upcoming surgeries that I would have to go through with in the years to come. It can be really hard living in a society that is obsessed with body image when your body is less than perfect. My only choice, since I could not find value in my body, was to find my value as a human a different way. I was not perfect, but I was real. And now I actually felt that my journey with HS was giving my life a deeper sense of purpose. It was one of the happiest years of my life. I felt so free from my usually imprisoned mind that was always stuck in feelings of guilt, shame, judgment, and self-hatred. I had found a safe haven inside my own mind, and to me, that was a miracle. Finally, in early 2016, I made an appointment with a dermatologist who was non-judgmental and quite familiar with the disease. I was 29 years old by this point. She let me know that she thought my only treatment option at that point was wide excision surgery, and she referred me to a general surgeon who agreed to operate on a cluster of lesions on my left breast. Once he saw my groin, I think he felt really bad for me, but he knew he could not take on that surgery. But he assured me that he would not forget about me. And he said he knew an experienced plastic surgeon who could help me with my groin. About 1 year later, I was finally able to book a consultation with this experienced plastic surgeon who worked out of the hand and upper limb clinic at St. Joseph's Hospital here in London. I found him to be a very compassionate and caring man. It seemed like he knew what he had to do. This surgeon, who was approaching his retirement, saw immediately that I was a young woman with my entire life ahead of me. From that point on, he agreed to take on all of my HS surgeries. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was extremely lucky to have fallen into his care and to live in a country like Canada, where HS surgeries are covered by our provincial healthcare plan. Because he was a plastic surgeon and often dealt with clients who were paying out of pocket for cosmetic procedures, his motivation for taking me on as a patient pretty much solely had to do with the compassion that he felt for me, which motivated him to want to give me a better quality of life. So we started with a 6-inch lesion on my sitting bone in July 2018. The following summer in 2019, my surgeon excised my left armpit, which included removing my sweat glands and hair follicles so the HS would never return in that area. My groin area was beyond recovery, as my skin had been damaged so bad from the HS that my only option was complete groin reconstruction. The birth control pill had helped to reduce some of my inflammation and the occurrence of flares and drainage, but my skin required surgery to fully heal. In December 2019, we went through with my extensive wide excision groin surgery right before the world shut down. While I was in the hospital, I experienced many complications from this very difficult surgery, and the area required painful wound packing for a period of time. I also had to have 2 separate skin grafting surgeries 2 months apart as final steps in this very complicated reconstruction process, and also due to the complications that had occurred. We didn't really know what to expect because with these types of surgeries, each case is different. However, ultimately, my surgery was a success. In total, I was in the hospital for 45 days. I was bedridden for around 4 weeks during that time. In those 45 days in hospital, I was sent to the operating room 8 to 10 times in a 30-day period. There were some days I'd be scheduled for the operating room 2 days in a row because I had gotten 2 really bad infections and they had to clean the wound intensively, and that would require me to be asleep. It was some of the hardest months of my life. But a year and a half later, I can say it was 100% worth it. And I would not change a thing about my journey because it has given me the strength to live my life with courage and grace. During my 6-week hospital stay, I had 30 to 40 different nurses who saw my wound and would ask me what happened. I explained to each of them what HS was. I would estimate that about 2/3 of the nurses who saw me had never heard of HS before. I was very happy to spread awareness about the disease. It felt like my duty and purpose to do so, being in that situation. Many of them would tell me they were so intrigued by my case that they took the time to read my entire patient file and even research more about HS. Finally, in June 2020, my right armpit was excised as well, with the sweat glands and hair follicles removed to match my left arm. This past August 13, just over a week ago now, I had my final HS-related surgery to remove the last 2 lesions that had been missed during the original groin reconstruction. It simply would have been too much on my body to do it all at one time. Sorry. HS is more than just a physical disease. It has the ability to wreak havoc on our mental, emotional, and spiritual processes. I have been there to the lowest of the lows, and I have grown in ways that I never could have imagined. The most important thing for me to hold on to was hope, and by trusting in the power of my own mind to get me through the darkest days. HS had pushed me to the edge of my darkest emotions, and it had me teetering on the edge of a very personal decision. In the story of my life, am I victim or am I hero? And what I discovered would be my journey back to hope. I mean, today I wake up every day with a grateful heart for where I am on my journey. I'm currently writing my 2nd book, Telepathy Between Hearts, to delve deeper into my emotional past and my mental health struggle. I feel very passionate about sharing how my experience with HS affected my mental and emotional health. And if there's one thing I could tell any HS patient, it would be to consciously claim the power of your own mind and your right to fill your mind with loving thoughts, no matter what your body looks like. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that tremendous hope can be found when we transcend our outer pain and inner fears about our life and surrender to the power of a higher purpose. Thank you.